This is the exact strategy I've been using over the last 2 years to make over $100,000 per month and have allowed me to acquire over 12 different businesses last year alone. And now, in case you don't believe me, here's one of my stores which has done over $100,000 in a single month. On here, we have 2 months of stores doing over $70,000 in transactions of buying and selling digital businesses. Now, I've been in the space of buying and selling businesses for quite a while, and there's different ways that you can go ahead and do these. You can flip businesses, which is just a short way to turn around and make quick cash, or you can go ahead and hold these businesses for a longer period of time. There's also a few other ways of brokering online businesses, but today I'm going to show you how to buy your first online business. And private equity firms, venture capital, and individual businesses looking to buy more make billions or even trillions of dollars every single year in buying smaller businesses up and combining them into one. This means that they can control markets, grow extremely quickly. They're able to take over a market with ease. So look, all we have to go ahead and do is take 0.001% of that, and you can make a ton of cash just off that. Now, I started my first e-commerce business a little over 5 years ago and played around with it a little bit here or there, but I actually went on to go ahead and buy my first social media pages at the age of 18. And this is me on my 18th birthday, looking through business profit and loss statements and seeing what I could potentially go ahead and buy. And now, it doesn't have to just be businesses. You can use this for social media pages to grow your own e-commerce store on Exit. You can do this for different softwares and apps. The same strategy works in multiple different ways, which will make sense later on. Look, the truth is, there's nothing really crazy about me. I haven't had a crazy upbringing or some piece of information which changed anything. At the end of the day, if I can do it, you can go ahead and do the exact same as well. Now, what's the difference between starting your own business and buying a business? Let's just run through this quickly. There's tons of information about starting your own social media marketing agency, a software company, an e-commerce store, or building your own personal brand. Now, all of these are great, but it takes time to go ahead and perfect and learn processes, and there's a lot of trial and error in between. And look, the thing is, I don't know about you, but I would much rather get the results right now and learn during the process of making money. And to be completely honest, there's no real guaranteed way to make money at all online except to go ahead and buy a business. Now, with any business, there's always going to be risk, but by starting a business, you're taking a lot of that risk to yourself, to your performance, what you can go ahead and do. While if you go ahead and acquire or buy a business, you're able to take something which is already making money, already has equity inside, meaning it's worth something from the get-go. And you're able to take cash out every single month while learning at the same time. Now, with 8 out of 10 small businesses for sale within the first 6 months not being able to be sold, there's tons of online businesses that you can go ahead and acquire. Whether it's a software company, an app, or an e-commerce store. Now, the two which I would actually go ahead and focus on are Shopify stores and software companies. Now, a Shopify store is something which I've been doing for ages, both e-commerce and dropshipping, and that's simply selling things online. The whole concept of an e-commerce store or selling a product is very, very simple. Also, the barrier to entry to go ahead and buy a business is far less. However, every single time that you get a sale, you're going to have to go back again and find more customers. Now, with a software company, you're going to be paying far more in terms of the actual price, but that also means when you go ahead and sell the business later on, you're going to be able to get paid more as well. And as far as customer acquisition and getting more customers on board to your app or software, they're already on there. All you have to go ahead and do is compound that over a period of time. So you may be asking now, buying a business sounds great, but I simply don't have any money on the table at all. How much money do you actually need to go ahead and buy a business? The thing is, that answer really ranges on what type of business you're going to buy. Recently, I bought a sauna clothing brand just a few days ago for $0 down. The rest being used by another method of financing, which puts no risk to me at all and allows me to go ahead and buy the business with minimal risk myself. Other times I've used minimal amounts of cash and using a thing called seller financing and combine that together to go ahead and create an acquisition. Now, once you build your acquisition company further and you're able to buy more and more businesses, you'll have more cash available and you'll be able to buy bigger and bigger businesses. Now, I've broken this down into a 6-step, easy, repeatable process. First of all, we need to go ahead and find a business for sale. The easiest place to go ahead and do this is through Acquire.com, Flipper, and Empire Flippers. These are huge marketplaces with a lot of people on the platforms ready to sell straight away. And on here, as buyers get more and more desperate and time goes on, they're going to accept more favorable terms and you can move those around into your favor. Now, some of these platforms you do have to go ahead and pay for, so there's going to be upfront costs. But like with any business, you have to be willing to invest something into it to get something out. Personally, if your budget was minimal to start off with, I would stick with an e-commerce business. There tends to be more available on these types of marketplaces, and the buyers are normally doing other things rather than this is their full-time life savings project or something else along those lines where it's of significant value to them. And instead they might be starting something else. They might be going on vacation for a little bit. They might just want an extra bit of cash inside. And if you're able to present something very, very favorable on both sides of the table, they may go ahead and accept it. Step 2. Now, step 2 is outreach. How do you go ahead and contact these business owners through the platforms? On Flipper and Acquire, you can just go ahead and make an offer straight away or contact the seller. And if you find it on one of these platforms and you want to speak directly with the owner before putting an offer in on a marketplace, you can go ahead and email the store through their support email. Or if you go ahead and use a Shopify store, you can go to their terms of service page, which lots of companies just use the automated Shopify contracts, which leaves their personal email address in there. From there, you can reach out and try to book in a call and understand where they're currently at with their business acquisition. Now, once you go back and forth, you want to understand the main reasons why they're selling. If they want tons of cash and they want to exit out straight away, chances are they're not going to go ahead and accept any kind of seller financing at all. You want to find somebody who truly believes in their business, but maybe doesn't have the time to go ahead and run it time after time again and wants to focus on something else. Now, lots of people will tell you, look for a business owner who's looking to retire, who's tried to step away from the business. But we have to remember here, these aren't businesses for $2, $3, $4 million a time. These are small side hustles, and the chances are a 65-year-old who's looking to retire is not going to be running an e-commerce dropshipping store selling flying drones. You have to put yourself in the business owner's mind. Maybe you're at a similar age. Maybe you're in the same sort of position. They're hopping into college. They're doing something else. How can you make those times as favorable as possible? Now that comes into the next step when you go ahead and prepare the deal. Before you get on the call, you want to have a general understanding of what the business owner is looking for. The amount of cash that they're expected. Maybe they don't need any cash at all. Do they understand seller financing? Now, seller financing is when you go ahead and pay for the business via the business's profits. In a simple way, you're operating just like an agency, but every single month you're getting paid as well as gaining equity in the business. And at the end of the term, you stop getting paid every single month from the owner's split. You take over 100% of the profit and the business too. It's like an agency on steroids where you go ahead and own the agency at the very, very end. You want to make sure you prepare your offer as clear as possible in clear, defined terms. Don't beat around the bush with different numbers and offers and ballpark ranges. Say what you're going to do and try to make them say the number first. This is going to give you some sort of leverage, negotiate back and forth without talking about numbers, and let them name the price lower and lower down. Once you hit a bottom line, start preparing a counter offer to that final number. And then from there, you need to go ahead and prepare contracts together. Now, I've left down in the description 2 contracts, an LOI, which is a letter of intent. It's going to explain all the terms of what you need to go ahead and do when you launch a new contract for a business for sale. And then an APA, which is an asset purchase agreement, which is you buying all the assets of the business without taking the business and its liabilities along with it. Now, it does depend on what type of business you're buying. Maybe you do want to take over the business entity, but a lot of the time it's going to be a legal fuss and headache for absolutely no reason at all. And in most cases, you can set up your own company in the UK with an LTD or the US with an LLC with quite ease. Now, let's say the business is asking, in this case, $10,000. One way that you could potentially go ahead and present this deal is with $2,000 in a down payment at closing. That means the seller is going to get security that they're going to get something out of the deal guaranteed. Now, the remaining part is $8,000 in seller financing. That's from the business itself and then paid off through profits. Normally, it's something between a 50-50, a 60-40, or a 70-30 split in the seller's favor. Now, the next way that you could go ahead and do this is for a smaller business asking price of $5,000 is doing $5,000 in seller financing completely, $0 in down payment. But this works very, very well, especially if you have some sort of social presence. Now, you need to build up trust and reputation with the seller themselves. If you already know them personally, it's going to be far, far easier. Or if you go ahead and post content online, give some sort of information on yourself or background, or build up rapport over a period of weeks, you could have a chance to go ahead and do this, especially on a business which is a pretty low asking price. You would want to have the split of profit pretty favorable on their side, anywhere from a 60-40 to an 80-20 in their favor to make sure they're being paid out straight away. And once you hit that threshold, maybe add in some sort of bonus where if you hit a certain threshold in revenue, they're going to be paid out $1,000, $500 for a business of this size. But why would the owner even agree to these sort of terms? At the end of the day, they're not getting any cash out of it at the start, or very, very minimal amounts with no guarantee that you could even pay them back. Now, the thing is, there's a few main reasons why somebody would go ahead and do this. The first being capital gains tax. If you're being paid everything at once, you're going to have to pay a lump sum of tax. Now, lots of people don't want to go ahead and do this, so they're going to defer the payments over a period of time. This is exactly what seller financing is. The second reason being is that they truly believe in the business and they know that they can get a higher price using seller financing rather than just taking the cash totally up front. Now, another reason why the owner would potentially take this offer is because it's the only one left they have on the table. With 8 out of 10 small businesses not being sold, in the first 6 months, 8 out of 10 small businesses on these marketplaces simply don't get sold. That means either they're rejecting offers because they're not good enough, or simply they're not getting any at all. And if you're the only option left on the table between them closing down their business or selling it, there's a very good chance that they're going to go ahead and take your seller financing offer. But I truly believe this is not going to last forever. Now, if somebody else is offering 3 or 4K in a full cash offer and you go ahead and offer $7,000 in this same example, there's another reason why the owner would potentially take this offer. They're getting more money at the end of the day, and if they believe in it at all, especially at this price range, it's totally worth it for them. So let's just take a month one profit on this example. On a 60-40 profit share, you're going to be paying 60% of that to the owner towards the debt of your $7,000 in asset price. That means $1,800 out of your 3K in profit is being paid directly to the owner so they can go ahead and fund that debt. Now the rest of seller financing is now $5,200. Now as a fee for running the business for that first month, you're going to take 40% of the profit. That's going to cover any overhead costs, any software costs, and just managing the day-to-day operation of the business. So you're going to go ahead and take $1,200 for yourself. Now remember, this is profit at the end of the day. So after paying off all the business expenses, this is what's left behind. Meaning now in month 2, let's say you're able to grow the business further and you're able to generate $6,000 in profit for your e-commerce store. At the same percentage, you're going to take your 40% of $2,000 in profit and you're going to pay off the $3,600 towards the loan, leaving $400 left to seller finance. Now at this stage, especially the way that the business is growing, you could just simply use $400 from your profit of that month to pay off the original seller financing and go ahead and control all the business. But let's say for a worst case example, in month 3, the business goes down quite significantly. There's $1,000 in profit. You're going to pay $400 towards the business. It's now completely paid off. You take $600 and now you've profited $4,200 for running the business for the last 3 months. And you also own a business which is worth far more than you paid for just a few months ago. That's because you've been able to increase the age and show that it's still profitable. Now, for example's sake, you put more time and energy from that money that you had before and the business does $8,000 in profit. Now, essentially, in a little over 3 months, you have a business which does $8K a month in net profit. If we put that on a 1x multiple of profit, you have a business which is worth almost $100,000. And that's just from 3 months of running it. Now, you can take this at almost any scale with the multiples increasing over time. Now, this is a good example's sake, but shows you how easy it is to go ahead and own a business with no cash down at all. Now, the next step is going to get on a call with the owner themselves and explain the concept of what you're trying to put across. You can do this on a Zoom, a Google Meet. I like to use Google Meet with a Fathom recorder, and I would use an affiliate link, but I'm not even sure if they have a program or not. But it's something that I use in my companies all the time. You're able to transcribe the whole call and just gain general notes about what you say back and forth. It's also good to send to the owner afterwards. And this really sounds like a sponsor, but it's not a sponsor at all. It's just a good way of tracking. I'm sure there's plenty of other softwares out there, but that's the one I use and it works very, very well. You want to build as much rapport. Now on the call, you want to build as much rapport as possible, ask as many questions as possible, and complete a process which we call due diligence. It's just making sure that everything that they say is true, looking through bank statements, ad spend on different platforms, and different reviews online. You want to negotiate as much as possible to get the lowest and best price as possible, but you also need to bear in mind that doing more in seller financing with a lower amount up front is always going to be more favorable to you. So even if you're paying a little bit more and it's going to take slightly longer over a period of time, try to take that offer as much as possible. Now, generally, this whole process takes around 2 to 3 weeks to negotiate and come to a price. As far as contracts, I always leave them on a shared Google Doc so you can make any changes in highlighting. It saves a lot of time going back and forth with lawyers, and simply create a WhatsApp group or chat that you can speak back and forth with the owner all the time. You want to keep updated on the other offers coming through as well, so you can stay competitive and move as fast as possible. At the end of the day, in any business, I believe time really does kill deals. So the longer you wait, the less chance it's actually going to go ahead and go through. Now, once you've agreed on everything, you've signed the contracts, and you can do this via DocuSign, e-sign, or do it even in person. You need to go ahead and start transferring the assets over into your name. Now, for anything with any amount of funds down before, I would use a platform called Escrow.com. Again, it's not sponsored, and I'm sure there's other ones out there, but this is the one that I go ahead and use. Very, very easy to get started. I think the fees are around 5 or 10% depending on the deal size itself, but virtually all you have to go ahead and do is you'll pay it into the escrow account with whatever funds you're putting down. The seller is actually going to put all the logins in, and then once all the terms are agreed and the contracts are in place, escrow is going to release the seller details, the logins, all the information. You can go ahead and check those over and make sure everything matches what you were seeing before. And once it's all fine, you'll have an inspection period of anywhere from 24 hours to multiple months to go ahead and check everything out on there. And once you've confirmed it, the seller is paid out directly. Now, if you're trying to take any ideas from this and you think you can just take everything over, there's no security for the seller themselves. They'll show proof that they've transferred everything over. And if you try to do that, they're just going to get paid out the funds before. So at the end of the day, do business for the long term. Don't try to shortchange anyone because it will come back around and bite you again. Now, how long does it actually take to get to this point of the process? From getting started to go all the way to the escrow transaction period on your first time around, I would say anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months. There's a lot of learning in the whole process, understanding the contracts, finding a business which is actually going to be good for you, and then negotiating back and forth with the terms. I would say anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks on the low end, and maybe up to a few months for the high end. It does depend on the size of the business. A smaller business is going to be much easier to go through all the steps, while a larger business with a lot of financials and documentation, with more money up front, you're going to want to make sure every single detail is perfected. If a seller is extremely motivated and so is a buyer, you can get it done in as little as a week, but it does require you to both be on the ball and know the space well. Now, as you take over the business, you want to start delegating the team from wherever you can as possible. The main sites I like to use is LinkedIn, Fiverr, Upwork, Online Jobs, Twitter, and there's lots of others as well, which are really good. The reason being is you want to understand the business as much as possible in the first few months and then start to hand over to everybody else. Because running multiple businesses, as I do currently with an education company, 2 software companies, and an acquisition business as well, there's lots of moving parts, and the businesses are quite different at the end of the day, even though they're all around the e-commerce space. And without a solid team in place, I simply wouldn't be able to manage all of them. And that's the same said here. If you want to scale and grow, you need to find how to build a team, hire correctly, and build a strong foundation so you can focus on getting more businesses on board. During the seller financing period is the best time to go ahead and learn the whole business, and usually I would add a term to keep the owner on anywhere from a week to 3 months so you can go ahead and ask questions back and forth, jump on online meetings, understand the business, because even if you know the e-commerce space extremely well, as I think I do, they know their business better than anybody else. So you want to take all the information that they have through notes, SOPs, other documents that you can go ahead and use, things called SOPs, which are standard operating procedures, and you go ahead and give those to any freelancers or virtual assistants to go ahead and start working on the business as you're trying to learn more and more. As much information as you can get is the best way to go about it. Make sure you keep notes of all the questions on a simple Google Doc. Now, after a few months of running the business, growing it further, you're left with a key proposition. Do you sell it or do you keep it? Now, if you're looking for the short term, you think the business can grow a little bit more, you may be opted to go ahead and start flipping the businesses wherever you can. Now, the best example of this is looking at the worst house on the best street. You'll want to go ahead and renovate as fast as possible, make some nice changes, and then sell it for a profit. You're doing the exact same in the business space where you're buying a cheap, undervalued business, renovating certain parts, developing the website further, adding a recurring subscription, or building out a full-time team for the new owner to take on. This is all adding value into the business itself, and it's pretty simple and easy to do as well. Or you can go ahead and start keeping it for a longer period of time, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. The long-term goal is a thing called a roll-up. That's when you collect multiple businesses in similar industries on different platforms and you combine them just as Vanguard and BlackRock do, some of the largest companies in the world, is go ahead and buy out multiple businesses in one specific niche. That means later on you could sell that for a much higher price as you're able to control more market share in one particular industry and potentially exit that out for millions or tens of millions of dollars. And for me, that's always going to be the long-term game with acquisitions. Now, if you're serious about starting your own acquisition company and buying more and more businesses, I'll leave a free training link of how I actually bought 12 businesses last year and did over $100,000 a month by running, acquiring, and selling these businesses to do the exact same. Now, it's completely free, and normally I would charge a lot for this type of information, but I just want to share as much as possible for free. I also post quite a bit to my Instagram as well, so you might want to check that out. But if not, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.